So where we stopped it in the last class, last day we just been stopped with indexers, right? Yeah. Saturday we just been ended the discussion talking about the indexers, how to define indexers in your code. What is how to give access to the members of a class to the outside environment. How to give access to the class, how to give access to members of a class to the outside environment. So this is exactly what we're talking. So if now you want to give access to the members of a class to the outside environment, three options are there till now what we discussed. What is the first option? Public fields. Second option, private field, and then associated property, where the advantage is you can give get access, set access, get set access. Third one, private field with an associated indexer. We can define indexer on the code. So last day we have seen how to define indexers on the code. By defining indexer on the code, we can just give get access, set access as per our requirement. But how do we give access? Your class object starts behaving like an array. It's not an array, but starts behaving like an array. So that is an advantage what you have with the indexer. So basically it is not an array, but it will start behaving for you like an array. Okay, so that's what indexer is all about, and we learned about this in the last session. Indexer. The next one, the next option what we have is next option what we have is, what is our concept actually giving access to members of a class to the outside environment. So what is the first option? Option 1. By declaring the field with a scope other than private. If you declare a field with a scope other than private, you can give access to the things like internal within the project, public, anyway, protected child class. Like this. Option by defining is the which one is better? Which one or the second one? Which one is better? First one or second one? Second one, yeah. The first one has a drawback. That's why we discussed on the second. What is the drawback of the first one? It's a read-write access. Anyone can get, anyone can set. You don't have control on that. If you don't have, if you want a control, what is the first option? Second option. By defining the properties, not public fields. Don't declare fields as public. Okay, you're required to go for properties. Third option. What is the third option? Defining indexes on the private fields. You can just define indexer also on the private fields. Okay, now also fields are private, not accessible, we define indexes. Here also we discuss like we can define only getter, we can define only setter, or we can define get set also, whatever it is. Last class we defined get set. Another advantage is using indexer. When you define indexer, what I showed you, your class starts behaving like an array. Your class starts behaving like an array. So we just use the array style for accessing emp of 0, emp of 1, emp. Last class I showed you an example. So we can just get it. And we can overload the indexes, string index, char index, like this. That also I said you. I showed you two indexes in the last class. One is int indexer and one is a string indexer. And in the notes I given you intent char indexes. In the classroom I showed you intent string indexes. In the notes I showed you intent char indexes. Like this. Okay? Now basically properties in indexes both are same only, but here we'll get a doubt. Sir, when to use properties and when to use indexes? So the doubt what comes in the mind is when to use properties and when to use indexes. Okay? So guys remember, when to use properties or when to use indexes. See, suppose you take a database table. In a database table, we basically know the number of columns in the table. We generally require to know the number of columns in the table. Without knowing the number of columns in the table, we can never work with any table. I repeat, without knowing the number of columns in a table, we can never work with the table. So we always should know the number of columns in the table. So we need to know the number of columns in the table. But do we know the number of rows in the table means, no, we never know the number of rows in the table. Rows are not fixed. Tomorrow, see, today you can have 1,000 rows. Tomorrow that can be 10,000 rows. Day after tomorrow there can be 30,000 rows. Who knows? We never know the row size, but we always know the column. Columns are fixed, but rows are varying. That's why when you're trying to access the row values, compulsory row values should be accessed by using their index positions only. Row values should be accessed only by using the index positions only, because we never know the number of rows. But when you come to columns, we know the number of columns as well as every column has a name. But does a row have a name? Come on, does a row have a name? Row doesn't have a name, column has a name. So when you're trying to access columns, in that scenario, what we use now? Properties. When we try to access rows, in that scenarios, what we use now? Indexes. So when we are working with the database programming, guys remember, when you are working with the database programming, I'll show you. We'll be picking up column values by using the column name with a property, but we'll be picking up the row values only by using the index. We cannot access a row value by using name. It should be accessible only through the index. All of you clear? So we have fourth option, guys. We have another option also, option 4. By defining deconstructors. By defining deconstructors. What is a deconstructor? Deconstructor. This is a new member introduced in C# 7.0. So listen, this is a new member introduced in C# 7.0. In C# 7.0, they introduced the concept of the deconstructors actually. Okay? This is a new member introduced in C# 7.0. Okay? And by using this also, we can provide access to private fields of a class to the outside environment. But read-only access. Understand? By using these deconstructors also, we can give access to private fields. Basically, the concept is from the last 3 days we're discussing. I have a private field, it should be accessible outside. Private fields are never accessible outside. So to provide access, one thing I said is change the scope. Second thing I said is, without changing the scope, define a property. Third thing I said is, without changing the scope, define an indexer. The fourth thing is, without changing the scope, define a deconstructor. But what is the problem with deconstructor is, deconstructors will give read-only access only. See, Properties in indexers can give you read only, write only, read write. All the three are available. You can have read only access. We can have write only access. We can have read write access. All the three. Read only, write only, read write. But when you come to deconstructor provides you only read only access. You cannot have a read write access or write access by using a deconstructor. Means I want to only display the values. If you want to display without going the properties in indexes, you can just use the concept of the deconstructors. Okay? A deconstructor is a method under the class with the name as deconstruct. With the name as deconstruct. The method name will be deconstruct. Okay? And the code in this method will be opposite to the code in a constructor. Opposite to the code in a constructor. What is the meaning of it? I'll tell you. Let me add a class here. We'll name this class as test teacher. See, from the last 3 days, I'm defining your classes like this. Remember, I'm defining classes representing entities. First, customer, test customer. Second, student, test student. Last day, employee, test employee. Now, teacher, test teacher. Means I'm going to define a public class here called as teacher. Public class teacher. Now, in this class, what I'll have attributes of a teacher. I'm going to have the attributes of a teacher. Simply, I have attributes of a teacher, that's all. Okay? Now, can I define a constructor and initialize these attributes now? Can I define a constructor and initialize the attributes? So, I am going to define one constructor in the code, and with the help of the constructor, I'm initializing. Watch it. What are you doing in the constructor? You're initializing all the fields. Okay? All these are parameters now. ID, name, subject, designation, salary. All these are what type of parameters? Input or output or in-out? Input. All these are input parameters. All these parameters are input. Because we already know output parameters should have an out keyword and the in-out parameters should have a ref keyword. So these all are input parameters. Okay? So means all these parameters will bring values into the constructor, and with this we are initializing the fields. Right? Now, you have a method, guys. You have a method in the class called as deconstruct. What is the method name? Deconstruct. This deconstruct method, if you observe, it will have all the parameters like a constructor. Watch carefully. It is completely a new feature, guys. Just concentrate. What's happening in Metro Studio? Now tell me, parameters are input out. And last input, all are input parameters, but here I'm using out keyword. Now tell me, parameters are input or output? Output parameters. Output parameters will bring a value or take a value? Output parameter will bring a value into the method or take a value out of the method? It will take a value out of the method. It won't bring you a value into the method. It will take a value out of that particular method. Means, if it is going to take a value out of the method, what should I do? I need to assign a value to it. See, that won't bring a value, it will take a value. So what is my job? I need to assign a value to it. So what will you assign? You will be assigning the values of the fields. You will be assigning the values of the fields. What do you mean? Look, reverse code, guys. The code will be reverse. What? Did you understand me? What did you write in the constructor? Now you are writing reverse to a constructor now. Constructor will bring a value, but deconstructor will not bring a value. What will it do? Take a value. It is going to take a value outside. It is just going to take a value outside. So that is the difference. Are you clear, all of you? The code, see, constructor, what did you do? Deconstructor, what do you do? The name itself is deconstructor, means it's just going to be reverse. So this will bring the values, this will take the values. That's it. That's how you define a deconstructor. Now come here, create an instance of the class. Which class? Teacher class. Create an instance of the teacher class. Okay? Teacher class, see? Teacher obj is equals to new teacher, passing one ID, name, English, job is lecturer, salary is 25,000. Okay, now? So now, when I call this, the control jumps to constructor and all the fields are initialized. All the fields are having a value. But one thing remember, using OBJ, can I access the fields? I cannot, because all are private fields, you can observe. You cannot access anything now. It's not showing you. It's not showing you any of the members. So this is the same problem we are discussing from the last 2 days, remember? Private field, non-accessible outside. I want to access. Either change the scope or update or indexer. What option always you do? Deconstructor. Using deconstructor, we can access the value. How you know? Watch. Look at this, all of you. How to access the value. Int, ID, comma, string, name, comma, string, job, comma, okay, string, not string, job, approach, salary, name, subject, comma, string, job, comma, double, salary. Look guys, is equals to OBJ, that's it. As well as OBJ now, all the values of the OBJ will straight away come into the fields now, into the variables now. I'm sorry, into the variables. So just I'm going to give a different name. ID 1, name 1, subject 1. No problem here, any name you can give. I want to just give the names like this. Now, so do I get access to the values? Yeah, we get access to the values. I'm printing and showing you, see. That's the teacher. Oh, it's not job, eh? It is designation. 19th studio I opened. In 19th, the C sharp 10 will not work. access to all the values. Got access to all the values now. So basically, you can access the values by using a deconstructor like this. You are getting the values. Only you can get the values. You can't set the values and repeat it. You can only get the values, but you cannot set the values. See, you're declaring 5 variables here to capture. You can even write like this, guys. All of you, have a look here. You can even write like this. Oh, look. Adding a line break here. Just without declaring them separately, indirectly declare it like this. You can use an ARC keyboard and definitely declare all the things like that. And also you get access to values. You want to be declaring separately, you can, or otherwise you can just use the simplest option now, where and declare of all the variables. Okay, so next, I want to get access only to 3 values. I want to get access only to 3 values. What values? ID, name and subject. I want to get access only to 3 values. All 3 ID, name and subject. So because I want to get access only to 3 values, all of you carefully listen. I'm writing ID 3, name 3, subject 3, and I don't want to get access to remaining. I don't want to get access to the remaining. But see guys, I get error. Why error? Because OBJ returns 5 values, but you are capturing only 3. That's not possible. See, a method returning 5 means you need to capture all the 5. You cannot capture only what you want. So this is a problem. So what to do if you want to get access only to 3 values? Basically, you can overload the deconstructors. You can overload the deconstructor. Do you remember overloading is 3 types? Method overloading, we learned. Operator overloading, we learned. Constructor overloading, we learned. Indexer overloading, we learned in the last class. We overloaded the indexer. What is int indexer? What is a string indexer? And the 5th one is deconstructor overloading. You can also overload deconstructors. Deconstructors also can be overloaded. Watch it out. Watch. I am writing another deconstructor in the code. With only 3 parameters. Okay, watch. Now, no error here. Earlier we had error, and now we don't have an error. Only 3 values. Okay, now tell me, I want to get access. Now you're getting access to what? Now you're getting access to ID, name and subject. Now I want to get access to ID, designation and salary. What should I do? I need to write one more deconstructor, one more overloader. But see, in this mix and match combination, you are required to write again the same problem, 2 power 5, 32 deconstructors you need to define with. You want to get access only to ID, or you want to get access to ID name and designation. Different combinations, you are required to define multiple deconstructors in the code. without defining multiple deconstructors in the code. Watch it. Watch all of you. What I want to get access only to just a second. You want to get access only to ID. Okay. Next you want to get access to designation. And next you want to get access to salary. This is what I want. But when I run this, I'm not getting any error. But when I run this, watch it all of you. It is giving access to name, sorry, ID, name and subject here, but not ID, designation, salary. Why? Because you have a deconstructor with 3 parameters, returning what? ID, name and subject. Your intention is you want to get designation, salary, but what is it returning is only ID and name and subject. So if you want to get ID, designation, subject, you require to write one more deconstructor now. You require to write one more deconstructor. Tomorrow I want to get ID, subject, salary, another deconstructor. I want to get ID, name, subject, designation, another deconstructor. And we recommend writing multiple deconstructors. To overcome this problem, you have an option. Without overloading the deconstructors, without option is there, but still without overloading the deconstructor, whatever parameter value you don't want, simply you can use an underscore there and you can skip that. You can use an underscore there and you can skip that. Watch. See what you're getting? Come on. What do you want? ID. What the found here? Designation, salary. I got ID, designation, salary. I want ID, subject, salary. I want ID, subject, salary. Okay, no problems. Come here. What do you want? ID, subject, salary. Okay, I want, what should I do? Underscore. I want subject. I want designation. What should I do? Underscore. I want salary. I do subject, salary. Understood now? ID, subject and salary are the things what I just want in this case. Clear? So this is how we can just go for declaring app and initializing the things. So it's a complete process how we can perform it. Is that clear in the deconstructor? So these are the various members of your class. Like remember, what are the members of the class? Properties, starting from the first, fields. Next, methods, constructor. Next, fundraisers. Next, is indexers, deconstructors, and finally we have events. We learned about the 7 fields, methods, constructors, finalizers, properties, indexers, deconstructors. What we did not learn is only events. Guys, we're not going to talk about events here. We are not going to talk about events here. We'll be discussing about these events when we just go to when I just in the ASP.NET. You started ASP.NET, all of you? Entering all of you are entering on ASP.NET. So guys, your ASP.NET, so today onwards all your classes are online and offline. You can attend offline also. You can just attend offline also. In ASP.NET, I'll teach you events. Clear? That is related to GUI programming. So that's why I'll teach about this in the ASP.NET classes for all of you. Okay? So I'm skipping the events here. We'll discuss in ASP.NET what are events and how to work with the events. Fine. What next?
Start చేద్దామా సార్?
I mean, it's